Welcome, Spartans, to Mission Debrief. We're playing every mission of the mainline Halo video game series in chronological order, discussing our experiences and sprinkling in a little lore along the way. If you'd like to play along and have your thoughts read on the show, email us at podcastevolved@gmail.com or drop us a tweet at podcastevolved on Twitter. We'll be playing the Cortana mission from Halo 3 on the next episode. This episode, we're debriefing the Covenant mission from Halo 3. I'm your host, Colin Perkins, alongside David Arnold.
Hello, everybody.
And Krista Brown.
Hi. Truth dies in this mission.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, pretty good.
Last mission, the Ark. The human Sangheili allied forces arrived at the fabled Ark via the portal at Voy and were immediately met with resistance from the Brute-led Covenant fleet. The elite shipmaster confidently commanded the counterattack while Johnson took Master Chief and the UNSC forces down to the Ark's surface to track down Truth. After clearing a landing zone for the Forward Unto Dawn, Chief and the Marines drove a convoy of rolling thunder through Forerunner blockades and assaulted the Cartographer. This mission, Truth has locked himself in the Ark Citadel behind a barrier protected by 3 towers. The Alliance conducts a coordinated attack on all of the towers, but only Chief and the Arbiter are successful. Johnson's squad needs an assist to shut down the final tower. As soon as the barrier falls, the flood-infested super city High Charity drops out of slipspace to complicate the matters for both sides of the fight. The date of the game is December 11th, 2552. Should we just talk about how amazing this mission is first?
It's a good one.
Or should we talk about
the Halo mission.
Yeah, this mission feels real good. These two missions together are amazing. I guess we probably should save like our highs and lows for the very, very end, but we'll just be gushing pretty much this entire time because it's very
This
good.
episode is full of love, and next episode is full of hate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, you're going to get both ends of the spectrum from us. Okay, so why don't we just do cutscene? David's going to do cutscenes because Crystal's got terminals and all that lore stuff at the very end.
We have so much to talk about.
There's lots
I'm
to dig
scared.
into. Buckle up, guys. Here we go. All right, David, start us out.
Cool. So, the start of this mission is really cool and really kind of reminiscent of the Silent Cartographer mission. So, you have a cool kind of setup of a bunch of Pelicans and some Phantoms flying together. You notice these are green Phantoms, which means they're friendly ones. So,
Green means friendly.
Exactly. It's a universal video game friendly color. Everyone understands it. Everyone gets it. So you essentially your objective is to power down these 3 relays, for lack of a better, they're probably a terminology. I can't remember what they're called. You got to shut these things down to open up the barrier so that you can get in. Get inside of the center of the Ark, because that's where Truth is now hiding. So in order to do that, you split into teams of 3. The Arbiter takes a squad, your Chief takes a squad, and then Johnson takes a squad of Marines. And you split up. Doing so allows you to essentially take 3 objectives at the same time, or that you're supposed to be doing. Anyway, immediately when you're flying down, as is per usual, Pelican gets destroyed and crashes into your Pelican and drops your you see a crash landing essentially. Your Pelican survives, manages to drop you off, you jump off, and you start the mission with a badass Spartan laser and a and a battle rifle. And the mission just begins straight away. Away you go.
Yep, just throw it in there.
This is the first time canonically, this is the first time we've seen a Spartan laser.
It is?
Right?
I think so.
Halo 3? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. There's none in Halo 2 and none in Halo 1.
But we saw him in ODST.
Well, yeah, in the show we've seen it in ODST and Reach, but I'm just saying if you were playing it in release order, this is the first time you're introduced to the Spartan laser, is you getting out of this crashed Pelican.
Let's talk about it then. What the hell is this thing?
It's a big splody boom boom laser.
Yeah, it's nuts.
It's the most expensive thing that you can buy in the UNSC.
Yep.
Krista used to calculated how many she could buy with all her Reach credits.
I have so many Reach
famous
credits.
episode.
Oh, that was a long time ago.
Is it a mini Mac cannon thing?
Yes. Yes?
It's
or
a laser
is it
beam.
a magnetic laser?
It's not like it's not a mag thing. It's an actual laser beam, I'm sure. It's not like it's I'm gonna look it up. You guys talk away.
I'm pretty sure we talked about
this. Well, so
I think we talked about this at some point.
We might have talked about an ODST series. So sorry, guys. We record these quite a few weeks in between recordings, so forgive us. David's gonna look that up. But do you like
the
using
Spartan laser?
Go ahead.
I have it here. Sorry, is a man-portable and vehicle-mounted solid-state directed energy anti-vehicle weapon used by the United Nations Space Command. It's one of the few directed energy weapons fielded by the UNSC, aside from pulse lasers used by the Naval Intelligence Prowlers and the X-23 NAP cannon used by Gremlin combat sports vehicles. So it's a full-on laser beam.
That's crazy. On your shoulder.
Lasers are cool.
Its cost is 218,000 credits.
You guys need some LASIK.
Right, yeah. Are you proficient with Spartan Laser, Krista?
Well, yes, pretty much. It depends. When it comes to campaigns, yes. When it comes to multiplayer, hell no.
Yeah. So what's the secret?
People are way too smart.
Is it just charging it up to the last little second and then letting it fire, or what's the best way to use it?
The AIs, especially in like I don't go through anything in the air because it moves too fast. But when it comes to like turrets, and wraiths, and I took out a couple chieftains later in the mission with it.
Oh, you
and
held
the chieftains
it for a while.
yeah, I held it till the very end. But the chieftains are pretty stagnant. So I mean, the chieftains don't move that much. You just have to pick more stagnant targets. Is what I use them for. I don't use them for anything fast moving.
You just use your secondary weapon for just a powerful something of that mission, then, right? You just hang on to it and then swap out your primary.
Yeah, I kept it till the last tower, and I just took out the chieftains and all the tower with them because it's way easier. You just show up and you're like, oh, goodbye, and then of course the hunters later in the mission too.
Do you remember how many shots you get? Is it like, maybe that's what we talked about? Is like how many shots you get out of the actual laser?
This one is 5, and they changed it to 4 when they went to other games. So this version of it, you get 5 shots. It's like a percentage.
Yeah, right.
So I took out 2 hunters, 2 chieftains, and a turret.
One of the turrets.
And if you're like me, when I got down to 1 shot, I gave it to an ODST. And then I got him to sit in the side of my Warthog, and I had some Warthog fun. That's what I'm talking about.
I took a mongoose, and the Marine that jumped on my mongoose had a shotgun. So I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, not helpful at all.
That's a great weapon.
Good choice, buddy.
Good job. Good try.
This mission feels a lot like what's the beach assault mission from Halo CE, kind of like you're kind of dropped in and you're
silent cartographer.
Yeah, so the Covenant's like dug in already, or at least they're on planet, I guess, for lack of a better term, on the Ark, and you have to go and clear the area to get to your next objective, and it feels really good. This is a great start to the mission. I think I took out those turrets with my Spartan laser right away because they're being pains, but there are a lot of Covenant to deal with, and then you need to get up to that AA gun off in the distance. You see in the skybox there, I mean, if you want to just take a look at the skybox, just do that, because it's very good. This whole mission, it's just wide open. Feels good from that perspective. The Covenant cruiser that's up there, is that Truth's, or I guess not Truth's, but is that one of theirs, or is that ours?
That is the shipmaster's cruiser, because later in the mission it gets boomed.
It takes some shots.
Okay.
But if you remember in the previous mission, they beat Truth's forces, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
So like any ships in the sky now, you imagine, are belonging to the Fleet Master. They're
that makes sense.
Friendlies.
The big boys, anyway.
Yeah.
So
throughout this whole mission, like they say, this is the last of Truth's armada. They're throwing everything they have at you, and there's actually not that much. Mm-hmm. And this is because, one, they didn't know humans were going to be there. So they didn't know humans were going to be on Earth, and they just went to the Ark. So they don't have anything.
Well,
is probably...
The Covenant have been losing it. Like, we've been massing a huge comeback.
Well, they lost High Charity. They lost their bread and butter.
Exactly.
Basically, which had all of their ships and stuff.
They have lost a lot. So it makes sense that they really don't have that. I mean, maybe there's fleets somewhere out in the galaxy, but they just don't have that much right now. So they're pretty weak in the fact that the shipmaster kicked the shit out of the brutes up in the sky. You know, they're reeling. So really, this mission is Truth's last chance. You know, last ditch effort to try to finally do what he wanted to do.
Yeah, and just hit the button.
Hit the button. That's right. Use a human to hit that button. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So let's keep going here. So good fights here, and you just kind of progress through. And there's banshees to deal with too. You do eventually get a warthog dropped off, right? You get that warthog dropped off to you, and I guess do you guys pick that up, or you just try to steal a ghost right away? I think I went warthog.
I went warthog because I gave my co-pilot a Spartan laser. So I was like, yeah.
Nice. Oh, that's right.
I hate other people, so I did a ghost.
You did a ghost. And could you steal a banshee? I guess technically you probably could, couldn't you?
You would have to lure the banshee onto. It would have to be once you get a hornet, I guess. You'd have to.
I don't think you can do it here.
They don't get low enough.
I would think if you plasma pistoled them onto a platform, you could probably do it.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I haven't tried. It sounds like too much work to me.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But it's definitely
Or
possible.
if you plasma pistoled the banshee and jumped out of your hornet and then landed on top of the banshee, which is tough to do.
It'd be fun to like try to steal a banshee and then try to hijack a hornet. That would be cool. That was.
I don't think you can hijack a hornet.
I don't know.
Because friendlies are inside. You can't just throw the friendly out of the hornet.
That'd be bad news. At one point,
like, what the hell?
Miranda does pop on the comms, and she directs the shipmaster to conduct a diversionary bombardment of the barrier. So he's doing that, and so that I think, yeah, you guys are definitely right. That's his ship just chilling up there. So he's doing some things up top to try to help out as we assault and go to these 3 towers. We don't see Arby because he's off doing his thing, and we don't see Johnson because he's off doing his thing. But we do get some Marines and ODSTs to help us along the way. This next area, you kind of climb up and around this hill, and then and then you go down into this cavern area. Like, this is a long drive. There's a lot of just kind of wheel time, which is fine. But I guess it also is kind of showing you the size of the arc and how big this mission is. But again, you get very strong silent cartographer vibes doing this part of the mission. Continue up, and then you get to see some ghosts kind of running off to the side. And you can either just jump your warthog or whatever you have into the middle and just get killed right away, or you can be smart and kind of go around, because there is a wraith in the middle, and there are some prowlers in the middle, and there's just a lot to deal with kind of in this little, I don't know what you call it, just a valley area. But they're protecting the door that goes into the barrier area, the off button, really. That's where we're going. What's your approach, David? Are you rushing in? Are you taking your time? What are you doing here?
Depending on the difficulties. If it's a high enough difficulty, when you first get to the top, there's some sniper rifles there, plasma rifles. Sorry, what am I thinking of? The laser sniper. I'm blanking on its name.
Oh, beam rifle.
Beam rifle. There's a few of those there, so I try and snipe as much as I can, especially the turret and the gunner of the wraith that's sitting down below.
Yeah, good point.
Because you're gonna get a lot of damage here, and if it's low enough, like what I did yesterday, I just drove straight in with my warthog and wrecked shop with a Spartan laser. So that was pretty much fun.
Nice. Krista, what are you doing?
I stole the wraith.
Of course. That's your answer to
and then
everything.
I just exploded everything. It's so much fun. I love
rushed it then.
Yeah, I killed I had a ghost, so I killed the gunner off of it, and then immediately jumped on, punched the guy out of the wraith, and then jumped in the wraith and murdered everything.
There's some shade turrets to deal with too.
Yeah, that was one of the first things I did.
Do you run people over with your wraith, or do you just do the plasma cannon?
Well, it depends how close they are. Usually I try to keep people pretty far away from me when I'm in a wraith, because I don't have a gunner.
Yeah.
So I usually don't run people over.
That's a good point.
It just depends. If grunts get in my way, I'll just run them over.
But co-op, you can do combo or co-op wraith, right? One get the gunner. Yeah.
Yeah, the gunner actually really helps in co-op.
I just need to go play through all these games co-op again. It's just a good time.
It is.
Very good time. All right, so we clear out this area, and then we do get a weapon drop. You get some weapons that drop off here, so you can grab. I think there's a shotgun gets dropped. BR.
Dual pistols, which are hilarious.
Oh. No. Really?
Yeah, one of them has 2 magnums in it.
Oh, funny.
Oh, someone should actually do that and just go through this whole thing with just dual pistols.
The rest of the mission.
did it.
You did?
I grabbed them, yeah. Because it was on normal, so I'm like, why not?
Yeah, might as well.
Play around a little bit.
So grab that ordnance, and then you head down this little ramp area, and there's a shade turret down there. And it makes sense, right? Because it's like they don't want you to go hit the button and turn this barrier off, so they're putting as much resistance in front of you as possible. So there's a shade turret down there, and then a bunch of grunts, jackals, and brutes. Like they're just crammed in that little hallway. Krista, did you just lob plasma in there with the wraith then?
No, I had gotten out of the wraith, and I just lobbed a grenade down there, and then took everyone out with. I was carrying the Spartan laser, and then like either a carbine or a BR, whichever one I had. Just took everything out with that.
I gotcha. Very nice. So this next area, you get in, and you're in this forerunner structure, and our terminal is in here. So maybe we just talk about that really quick before we keep going.
Well, a terminal is in every single tower. So every tower has a terminal. So there's 3 in this mission.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. They're all kind of in the same spot. Let's see.
Except for the middle one.
Oh right.
The first one and the last one are just by the elevator. You just have to jump over to it. And then Arbiter's one, you can literally just land there when you get in your Hornet later in it, and you just walk inside, and it's right there.
Yeah, that feels good. Cool. So yeah, you can either jump up and get to that terminal right away, or you can kind of walk around. There's like some doors to walk through, so you can clear out this area. There's grunts and brutes you can chuck grenades at and brute shots at you. You do have to take your time a little bit. There's enough resistance to make this a little bit of a challenge. But then there up top you can see the elevator that you're going to use. But if you choose not to jump up there, you can. But if you choose not to, then you kind of have to wind around a little bit, some couple doors to then get up that way. So there are a lot of shortcuts, I guess, in this mission. Now that I think of it, a lot of ways to just skip areas altogether from that very fact, just the level design, which is good, which I feel is a good design. If you're playing co-op, it's probably fun to just grind out or just shoot as many aliens as you want to. And if you're playing solo and just trying to accomplish something, just get through the mission, then you can do those shortcuts quick, and that's why they have those part times too. So we get up and around. I guess is there anything else you want to talk about before we get to the elevator? I mean, it's just kind of our standard fighting at this point. Nothing super special, I don't think, to cover.
There's a bunch of brutes with maulers, though.
That's true.
Or is that the last one?
That's
one of them has a bunch. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Then no, I don't have anything to say.
Then no. All right, so let's get up to the elevator. Yeah, so again, the terminal's there. So make sure you get that terminal before you go up the elevator, and then go hit that button. And then at the top, you get to see just a bunch of brutes. You get to see the chieftain, and he's got his gravity hammer. And are they cloaked here? I don't think they are cloaked in this room.
No, they're cloaked in the last one.
Okay, so pretty much a standard fight here. Nothing super special. A lot of the brutes will just kind of charge you. And depending on what you got, just kind of mop up. The only thing that could get a little dicey here is with the chieftain, and when he decides to charge you, and whether or not you want to stay back, because there's just not much room. As soon as he starts to kind of launch his gravity hammer at you, you gotta jump out of the way, or somehow get out of that AoE effect. Otherwise, you're probably gonna just restart. But I think you just restart at the top of the elevator anyway, so not too big of a deal here. But then
that's why you just walk in and laser him.
Well, if you have the laser, yeah, because he's just standing there, right?
Yeah, he'll just stand there until a couple brutes die, and then he'll charge you. So he'll just stand. I just walk. The elevator comes up, just laser the guy, and then kill all the brutes.
Or if you're like me, at the very start of this area, after you take out the shade turret at the right end of the ramp, there is a cloak item. So I dropped whatever I had and had the cloaks, and I just pretty much stealthed this area and assassinated the brute chieftain. It was cool because I wanted that invincibility.
Yeah, I got the invincibility as well.
Is there assassination animation?
No, but you get a one-hit kill.
You just from behind, you elbow him in the head.
Yeah. Assassination stuff didn't come in until Reach, so 4 and 5 are going to have it.
Right. Okay. Very cool. So now we hit the button and we get a little cutscene here. David, you want to talk through that?
Yep, very short and sweet. Chief pushes a button and you see a big light beam go off, and then you get some dialogue where Keys comes on and kind of says, "Excellent, that's your chief now, and now the Arbiter's team," and then just as she says that, you can see that goes down, and then it cuts to the third one and it goes, "Johnson, report," and then there's nothing, and you're like, oh crap. So you have to go and help Johnson. I think, does Johnson come on the radio? He might come on the radio.
Yeah, he says he's pinned down.
He's pinned down and needs help. So you're like, okay, Chief, get over there and help him. So then the kind of cutscene ends, and then you kind of know where you're going now.
Yep. And I would imagine this is a big area, so there's probably a lot of these barriers all the way around, and they must have just figured out a way, if we deactivate a couple of them, then we can actually get through.
Yeah, I think we're just opening like a window. I don't think we're shutting the whole thing down, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then we backtrack all the way back to the beach.
Yeah, I know. And it adds a little, I don't know, unnecessary. This mission is long, but I think because there are some backtracking sections, which is a little bit of annoyance. But again, the mission's so good overall, it's not too big of a deal. Because usually you can just kind of run through, depending on, again, the difficulty. You should just be able to cruise down. And then I think you get into I think I hopped into a mongoose at the top. Yeah, I think I did.
They also had like one of the civilian warthogs as well, or just transportation warthogs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they'll just drive you all the way there. The interesting thing is, like, once you get down from the elevator, there's some enemies, but then there's nothing. You hit the beach and there's just nothing. Like, that drive all the way back, there's no Covenant or anything. You just are literally driving all the way back.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They must have been in other areas of the tower, maybe? I don't know.
Well, they could have just kept the cutscene going and just gave Chief the Hornet right there.
Mm-hmm.
True. There's no reason why the Hornet couldn't have come into that valley, and you could have just
jumped
it's
a huge area.
Yeah, and you could have navigated the Hornet back out and around, maybe. I don't know.
That would have been cool.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
All right, so anyway, we're going to head down, and we're going to get that Hornet that we've been talking about.
Yes.
It's a very good time to drive this Hornet around.
It's so weird to have so many new things at the third to last level in a Halo game.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, we get the Spartan laser.
We got the Spartan laser and the Hornet.
Mm-hmm. And the Hornet, it feels very good. I like the design of it, and it's kind of a surprise. You're like, wait a minute, I get to drive that thing? Yes. I'm all in. Let's do that.
Yeah, it was cool getting it for the first time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it feels very good. And then, I guess I'm not remembering the controls specifically, but just you're just using that machine gun that it has to take down Banshees, and there's a couple points where you can take down some Phantoms as well, and then
it has homing rockets.
Yeah, you got the rockets too.
Oh, that's right. I might not even use those.
I love the rockets. The rockets are everything.
And it has two of the most riskiest, craziest what am I trying to say? Supports where like the guys have to they jump on the side and they're completely exposed.
They're just sitting there on the bottom.
And it's awful. And it's always like the pilot gets out and then the pilot will jump into the side of you with a pistol and you're like, dude, you're just cannon fodder. You're gonna die.
Yeah, exactly.
It's pretty funny.
They do get shot down pretty quick too, I think.
Yeah. I tried to give them weapons. So on this one I managed to get one guy on with a fuel rod cannon, but I don't think he actually hit anything. But it was just fun to have one on there and be like, yeah, a Hornet with 2 power weapons on the side would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
rockets or something.
Yeah.
Okay, now I am remembering. I'm watching a kind of walk through as we do this, and I remember the missiles. So those are fun because they do that homing action, which is good.
I will say here, if you started the mission, it's at Rally Point Alpha. Apparently, there's a glitch. I'm not sure how to do it. I didn't really look too deep into it, but there's a glitch where the game will think you're stranded on an island where the anti-air raid is. So you can trick the game. When you do that, the game will spawn a Hornet piloted by a Marine who will land it on the island and give it to you. Apparently, you can have infinite Marine pilots and infinite number of Hornets, and you can exploit it and crash the map.
So just have 100 Hornets just all over. That's amazing.
That's pretty crazy.
That sounds nuts.
It's cool.
I don't want to backtrack, but I just need to backtrack briefly. So, but when we go down the elevator before we get on the Hornet, apologies, but I just want to talk about when I grabbed the grav hammer from the Brute, because I always do, and when you go down the elevator, you can see your shadow, and seeing Chief's shadow with a grav hammer on the back is just awesome. Feels good. Sorry, I just had specifically that in my notes, and I skipped over it, but I wanted to say that feels good when you have that giant power weapon on your back.
Podcast evolved. Shadows.
All right, so back up into the Hornet. We do have our skull and terminal that we already mentioned. Well, we mentioned the terminal, not the skull. So if you fly up to that second, what are we calling them again? The
towers.
Towers, yeah, just a tower. So you fly up to the second one where Arbiter was. Then you kind of park it up there, and you can walk up the ramp, the ramp up to the top, and you can get the skull is up there, and that's the thunderstorm skull, and that means all enemies are promoted to the highest level.
Wow.
Yeah.
Chieftains everywhere.
Yeah. So that one's rough, and then you walk back down, and then into the little walkway area, and then that's where the terminal is. So it's not in the same spot as it is in the other towers. But it's in that tower as well, so they do all have their own terminal. So go grab that. Again, Chris is going to talk through those at the end of the show. Then hop back in your Hornet, and then now we got to go assault the third tower, the one that Johnson wasn't able to shut down. And this is a good little, it's not, I guess it's just a dogfight where you're taking down the Banshees. And I never had too much of a problem on this. Is it tough on Legendary? I can't remember.
Yeah, it can be, because the Banshee bombs that the Banshees are shooting at you are actually homing. They'll curl and they'll do like crazy maneuvers to hit you, so it can get tough. You gotta really hold your ground like far back and try and shoot them as much as you can with the rockets.
I think I took the turret from the Phantom out right away, and then it ended up not being too much of a problem, because when that turret gets on you, it can cause lots of damage. And the Hornet is maneuverable and pretty agile, but if you're kind of going back and forth, you may like run into a bullet on accident, or a plasma beam if you're just not careful. I guess you're just kind of rotating back and forth. Krista, how are you on the Hornet? Are you a pro Hornet player?
Oh yeah, it's so much fun. I love the Hornet. I love this area just for the Hornet.
Did you ever get the Hornet in multiplayer, or is it only like Forge? Did you ever get Hornets?
Which map is it? Valhalla that has a Hornet, or is it just a Banshee?
I'm not sure.
It definitely has a Banshee. I'm not sure.
I know I guess it depends on some of them depend on the game mode, but yeah, on multiplayer I'd grab a Hornet and wreck shop until they killed me, which was still fun.
This last tower has a couple turrets on the bottom. It's got an anti-air wraith. It's got a regular wraith. It's got a bunch of brutes with like fuel rod cannons. So you're best off really kind of clearing that area out before you decide to land. I guess you could just run in if you wanted to, but you will probably most likely get overwhelmed. So it's best to clear out all that stuff beforehand. Now that I think of it, because I usually clear out everything. If you don't clear out everything, do you think on the way back there will still be like the turrets in the race? Will you think they'll still be out there, or will?
Oh, I don't know.
I think you have to clear them out. I don't know. Actually, it's like because doesn't the friendly Phantom come in and drop off all the elites?
Yeah, that's
and the Arbiter stuff. So I think the anti-air might stop that from happening. I've never not done it, to be honest, so I actually have no idea.
Good point. Yeah, because then so you do close the area, and then RB and his elites show up, which feels good, right? You're now rolling with your boys, your homeboys, your new homeboys. But yeah, they feel pretty powerful. I didn't pay too much attention to see if they die off very easily, but it felt like they were good allies to have, and they helped clear out the. So when you go to the bottom, there's a door that opens, and then a bunch of brutes just pour out of that door.
Yeah, well, they're definitely better than Marines in that, they've got shields and energy shields and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point. So now we're rolling with our elites, and we head through this door, and then the next area is pretty much the same exact design as our first tower, but now we have some hunters to deal with, and I had my gravity hammer, and it feels real good to smash a hunter with a gravity hammer. I think it took 2 swings. I'm playing on heroic, but at least 2 swings to take one down.
Yeah, it's a good feeling.
Yeah, did a little dance with my hunters first, and then was able to take it down a couple times. The terminal is up top. I think it's on the other side of the ramp, opposite side of what the one was in the first tower. So make sure you get that before you continue. And so Chris, I think this is the next area. This is where all the brutes and I guess they probably have their little needlers. I'm forgetting all the right terminology right now, but
the maulers?
Not the maulers. Maulers are the
spikers.
Yeah, spikers.
Brute spikers.
Yeah, the maulers are the little shotguns, but they do show up in this area too. Yeah.
They had there was a bunch of them up there.
Mm-hmm.
Which one shot from a mauler isn't that bad, but if you get 2 or 3, you're dead.
Yeah.
You're so dead.
Yep. Indeed. And then I think, are there drones in this spot, or is that for
yes,
there is
a bunch of
with
drones
the hunters,
come out of the elevator shaft.
Yeah, that's right, and they're annoying. What's the best way to clear drones with Covenant weapons, or I guess brute weapons? What's the best one to use?
Brute shots.
Brute shots. Oh yeah, brute shots. That's a good call. I like that.
They're when they're close to each other, you can get a good blast radius. You get a good view in there.
Yeah, that's a good call. I think I was using probably that spiker, and that's okay for it because they don't have a ton of health. But they're just kind of annoying to hear once you right before you go up the elevator. You go up the elevator, and did Arby stay down on purpose? Does he ever come up with you? Okay.
No, there's a bit of dialogue there where he's like, "I'll hold the ground while you go over and push the button or whatever."
Okay, that makes sense. All right, so now we're gonna go up, and we have our chieftain at the very end again. But now this time, as we mentioned before, the brutes do have their active camo, so you have that to deal with. And I feel like it's kind of annoying in the moment, but it is cool to just if you're playing on a lower difficulty, just kind of stare in one area and see if you can see them move around, because it's really well done for the technology at the time. 2007. I guess before, because there's active camo in Halo 2.
First game.
Oh, and the first game. You're right.
Yeah.
They're in all the games. But I feel like they're harder to detect in this game. Where
they're also not carrying energy swords.
Yeah, there's that too.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so they're not as apparent.
They're cool though, because when they kill them, they drop flame grenades, which I love.
The flame grenades are amazing. They're so useful.
They're great.
You can set yourself on fire if you want.
Yes, you can.
I do like also the animation where you shoot them a little bit, and then they kind of waver back and forth between invisible, which is very good, and you kind of see the smoke and whatnot. But yeah, so this is kind of a cool fight with pretty much everybody's active camo except for the chieftain's down there. When he's got one of those turrets, I believe, one of the plasma turrets down at the end.
Oh, he does, yeah.
Anything else before we smack this? But wait, where's Johnson? Where'd he go? They must have took him, right?
We don't know.
That's a good thing. Yeah, we don't know actually.
Because he called in, said that he was having trouble. He might even say that like fall back at one point. So he might have gotten overwhelmed. But we don't see Johnson for a little bit here. He's not here.
He might be dead.
He could be dead. No, he's not dead. All right, take us through this next little cutscene here.
So next little cutscene. So John pushes the button. The laser light beam goes down, and immediately bad shit starts to happen. So a big slip space rupture kicks off, and in comes High Charity, all of it.
Yeah.
Incredibly heavily infested with flood. So this was Cortana's plan, as we mentioned in the previous episode, to lure the Gravemind here, which has worked. The Gravemind is now at the Ark. We don't really know how he got here, but we imagine he'd have to come through the portal on Earth, which is a terrifying thing to think about. So either he managed to, it would have taken him way too long to get here at normal space travel, so I don't know. I'm not sure.
He must have come in like right after us too, because it's a 3-week slip space trip.
Yeah.
True. True.
So he must have, shortly after that carrier came through, we went right through the portal, so I'm guessing he went right through the portal as well.
Yeah, and just ignored Earth and went straight through.
Yeah, I would imagine he would just crash it into the portal, because at this point, High Charity's crashing. It's not flying right anymore.
Yeah, so it comes through and crashes down into the Ark, and at the same time, all of these, you'd almost call them rocks, but they're obviously lumps of the High Charity falling apart, come crashing in. One of them goes straight through one of the carriers, which is pretty cool. And the rest
That's the Shipmaster's carrier.
Yeah, and one of them crashes straight into you. And pretty much as you can expect would happen, it then spreads the flood. So you see flood forms coming out and immediately start infecting the bodies of the brutes you just killed. And then there you go, that's where the cutscene starts. Or the game starts, sorry.
Yeah, more flood times. We knew that it wasn't the end of the flood, though, of course.
We knew
the game wasn't over.
Yeah.
And also, if you know this is going to happen, like, before you press the button, you're like, okay, what's in this room?
Yeah, exactly.
I started dual-wielding maulers. I'm like, oh, okay, this might be fun.
Yeah, me too. Fun. And immediately throwing my flame grenades because they're amazing.
Yes.
So maulers, they're shotguns, but do they have better? Are they more powerful than our shotgun?
Not at all.
No, they're not more powerful. You have to dual wield them to kind of get the same kick as a shotgun.
They're only good in pairs, and because they've got a small clip and very bad range.
I get you.
But if you're dual wielding them, they're very effective against the flood.
They're very good, yeah.
If you hit them both at the same time, it's pretty much a one-shot kill.
There is a little dialogue. So Miranda does check in with the shipmaster and just kind of asks him his status. And he says that his systems are disabled. Miranda tells him to retreat. And then the shipmaster asks why the flood would come here. And
Guilty Spark starts having a panic attack.
Yeah, exactly. He says that the Ark is out of range of the halos. It's like these little bits of dialogue that they drop that are easily missable, but when you think about it, like, oh shit, that's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
So they're a long ways away. They're kind of isolated if we don't deal, we already dealt with them on Earth, and that would have been a bad thing, but we cleared up the infestation there before we headed out, and then now they're on the Ark, which could cause all sorts of problems. So this is like the worst case scenario.
Yeah, if the flood made the Ark their base of operations, you're done. The Lesser Ark was put outside the range of the Halo because it's supposed to be preserving species to be reseeded after the firing of the Halos. The Lesser Ark was one of the biggest secrets that the Forerunners had. Yeah. So the Gravemind didn't know about it until now. Now it's just like, ah, shit, here's my free ticket to just kind of do whatever I want.
Yeah, because if they, worst case scenario, they have to fire the Halos. If the flood's here, the Halos won't affect the flood.
No,
so,
then there'll still be a Gravemind out there. And if there's a Gravemind, like, the infestation doesn't stop. You have to kill the Gravemind.
Yeah. Yikes. I hadn't really thought about that. Thanks for talking through that with me, Krista. This is bad news.
It's very bad news.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we deal with the flood, and they're not too bad here. There's not, I think, is there any tank forms? There might be a couple, but for the most part, they're just the combat forms. And
no, I think it's on no pure forms here, just because the only thing that they dropped was the infection forms. So all of the brutes you killed just reanimate.
Gotcha. All right, so they're not too bad to deal with. You just kind of mow through them as quickly as possible. I feel like I did see some elites. That would make sense though, because there are some elites that came in with you.
Yeah, there is some elites.
Yeah, so you see some.
And they have shields.
See some elites, see some brutes, some carrier forms, and some infection forms to deal with. Head back to where you entered, and then there is some vehicles waiting for you. And the next, I guess the next objective is now we got to go to the Citadel. Like I think Miranda does pop on and say, "Hey, we can't deal with the flood right now. We have to go deal with the Truth first, because the fact that the flood are here might accelerate his plans to fire the array, which it more or less does. So let's go get Truth." And the Flooder. So we clear out here. The Flooder is somewhere on the Ark, but our main objective is to hop on this Gosshog that we just got dropped off, and then start clearing out.
I used the tank.
Oh, I absolutely used the tank.
Oh yeah, I guess there is a tank there too. I'm watching a walkthrough, and this guy took the Gosshog, so that's what I'm talking about.
That guy made.
But yeah, I would have taken the tank too. Yeah, I don't know what this guy's doing. Why are you taking? This is
such a cool convoy because there's some mongooses with rocket launchers on the back of them. There's a Gauss hog being driven by an elite, and then there's like you get a tank, and then I had guys with Spartan laser. I had a guy with a fuel rod cannon. Like I had such a crazy collection of dudes at this time.
Yeah,
it was such a cool mix match of the forces with their weapons. It was cool. And then I just wreck shop. Like this part of the game is so much fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, this is very good, very good. So now we kind of climb up this hill, and then we go down this hill, and it's is it like snowing out now in this next area?
Yeah, you move into a different biosphere.
Yeah. So it's a little bit white. There's kind of some snow. It's a little cold. I don't know if you can see your breath or not, but now we kind of wind our way down, and there's Covenant Towers, and there's Banshees to deal with, and there's probably because kind of pretty much everything. This little part throws everything at you as you wind your way down into this valley area. So have fun, especially if you're like David and you have you're rolling with a bunch of forces together. Oh yeah, my walkthrough. That now I see the scorpion. There he is. Why would you jump in the scorpion? Anyway, you wind all the way down, and then not just one, but two. Two scarabs down at the bottom are waiting for you. And yeah, this is an interesting fight. It's just chaotic. What's your approach, David? How do you take these two scarabs down?
This is pretty cool. I immediately get into a Hornet, and I spent ages trying to get my passengers to not be the stupid pilots with their stupid pistols. I managed to get one guy with a fuel rod on the side, so I was like, okay, now I'm going to take out these scarabs.
Because they're not down there. Once you get in the Hornet, then that's when they drop, right?
Yeah. You kind of move forward
out of the sky.
Yeah, it's amazing. Just these two fucking scarabs dropping in on top. It's so cool. And then a bunch of Banshees come in. So there's like loads of cool kind of little tidbits that like that. Like apparently you can board the Banshees, and when you kick out the brutes, sometimes they're armed with human battle rifles, which I thought was interesting.
Oh.
If you board one of the Hornet, as in on the side, the Hornet's pilot will take you to a scarab and then return to pick you up when that scarab's destroyed, and it'll bring you to the next one. Which I thought was
cool.
Crazy that the AI pilot would do that for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I never tried it. I only read that up after I finished the mission. I would have liked to have tried it. It's pretty cool. What else is there here? It is possible to get a mongoose or a warhog onto one of the scarabs in the scarab fight. There's ramps apparently leading up to both scarabs as soon as they land. So if you grab a mongoose or warhog, you can just ramp it up and on, which is kind of pretty cool.
That's cool.
I typically shoot all the knees, and the scarabs will spin with you, so they'll kind of keep their they'll try to keep their weak backhinds away from you, because they know what you're trying to do. So you can shoot off many different parts of the scarabs here. Obviously you go for their legs and stuff like that, and the big turret on the back, you can damage that. Eventually the arse will fall out of it, and then you can kind of shoot in, or you can drop them board. I like to board them myself, so very often I'll just get out and try and land on top of one of them.
Yeah,
but it's cool.
Very nice. I guess I didn't do this valley justice, but this valley is really cool. It's huge. It feels like one of the biggest arenas that we played in, really. And it needs to be, because you have these two giant scarabs that drop out of the sky, and then all of these vehicles around you. And then you see this... How would you describe the Citadel? I mean, it's just very Forerunner. It's very kind of alien. You have this kind of that in the distance, and then you have all of these rocks and kind of mountainous areas around you as well. And yeah, it's a good time. You can approach it lots of different ways. Krista, what do you end up doing?
I just kill them with the Hornet. I'm pretty lame when it comes to killing the scarabs. I just go with the Hornet and just kill them from shooting back.
Oh, you do? Okay. Well, that's efficient. Yeah. So, because there's enough of an angle, you kind of get that angle where you can get the back of them. Is that what you do?
Yeah, if you level yourself with the back, you just throw a couple rockets in there, and then they're done.
Oh, I see.
So it's just disable a leg, shoot the back off of the scarab, and then shoot into there until it explodes.
Gotcha. I think what I did is kind of what David was describing, where the Hornet pilot will drop you off at both of them, but I did it myself. It didn't go well right away. It took me a couple tries, But it was one of those things where I was determined to, okay, I'm going to land my Hornet on the first one, take it down, go hop back in. And yeah, it took me a handful of tries, but I ended up doing it. So took the Hornet, both of them, took them down. Felt really good. It makes sense that there would be 2 scarabs in this area because, and I guess it would make sense that they drop down in from the sky because it's like Truth, or whoever's commanding Truth's army is like, we need to defend Truth, so let's send everything that we have. Even though we know that scarabs are more for excavation, they also have been retrofitted for combat, and they are pretty much the biggest vehicle, outside of the ships, but the biggest land vehicle that the Covenant have. So yeah, this is a great fight. Enjoy, have fun, do it however way you want to do it. But I hope you're having fun doing it to begin with. So let's take out these scarabs, and then now I think there's like a mini cutscene, right? Where you have to go hit a button again, right?
Well, you have to before you go anywhere, like you're at 2 scarabs are dead. You're standing at the entrance, and a phantom comes in and drops off 343 Guilty Spark and the Arbiter, and then he activates the light bridge which you run across. So apparently when you do this, if there's any surviving Covenant forces nearby, 343 Guilty Spark will attack them with the energy beam, which is kind of pretty cool.
Oh, nice.
I love his energy beam. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
Mm-hmm. It is pretty fortunate that we have 343 with us, just to, he's a Forerunner, and he happened to has the keys to all the Forerunner stuff. He's our R2-D2, which is great. So he opens that light bridge, and then you head up with the Arbiter. And this is pretty good because Truth is nearby, and the Arbiter has some history with the Truth. So it's fun to roll up this ramp with him.
And then you get the big cutscene.
Oh, no.
No?
No. It's so sad.
It's a sad cutscene. It's annoying for one thing, which I know. Well, I'll get there, right? So it starts off with Johnson being pretty much beat up by a brute, and Truth is in there, and they're trying to get Johnson to activate their Halo rings, because obviously only humans are able to do so. He's spouting off some rhetoric about like being vermin, you don't deserve to be here, you're weak, all this kind of stuff.
The Forerunners left you behind.
The Forerunners left you behind on purpose, and now I see why, and all this kind of stuff, and blah 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 blah. In the background, you see through a window this pelican flying in, comes crashing in. It lands and knocks off 2 brutes, and out the back of it comes Miranda Keys, and she's got a pistol. She's got a shotgun, and starts very ineffectively shooting brutes with the shotgun. These brutes have no weapons. Apparently, they've lost all their guns. The Johnson is shouting out to get out of here, run away. You shouldn't be here. You're just giving them. Obviously, he knows you're just giving them leverage. So she has like a cool moment where she has a shotgun and a pistol, wielding it, like dual wielding it. She doesn't really know what to do, but it realizes that stop the plan. She would if she killed both of herself and Johnson. And Johnson knows that too.
Yeah,
so
that's
he
a weird
says,
moment.
"Do it first, me, then you."
Oh, so sad.
You can see her hardening, but I don't think she would have done it. There's a moment of kind of weakness, and then straight away she gets shot from behind by Truth, who has a brute spiker, which is pretty brutal. Johnson gets real emotional here, so obviously Truth has some rhetoric about them being weak again, and then he pretty much forces Johnson to activate the halos, and then you get the cutscene of the dais kind of opening up and raising up a little bit further, and then all these kind of holograms of the rings kind of turning on, which is cool, of which there are 7, and you can see one in the middle is kind of got all these red segments on it, which is kind of foreshadowing what we're going to see next. We haven't seen that yet, have we?
No, we haven't seen that. That's the very end.
That's the very end, sorry. So then we have the camera flies through the hallway through all these rings turning on, which is really, really cool sequence. And then when it gets to the end of the hall, up the elevator comes Chief and Arbiter.
So let me stop you there.
I love that moment. That is a great cinematic moment of the rings opening, cool. And then Chief and Arbiter at the very end of this room as the rings are firing up and they have to run all the way across this bridge.
Yeah. Cool.
It's so good. Just this whole thing. It's emotional, but just amazing.
It's a big, beefy cutscene. Just lots of information. Lots of things are happening here. So sorry to stop you, but I just wanted to talk briefly about Miranda.
Yeah.
And so she's more or less sacrifices herself because it's a last-ditch effort, right? Because she had already said, like, the fact that the flood here might accelerate his plans, so she knows that she has the ground forces and they're fighting the scarabs, and she's probably thinking in her mind, I'm just trying to justify this, right? She's probably thinking in her mind, oh shit, I gotta get up there. You know,
well,
I gotta
and right before this, she calls Chief on the phone, on the comms, and says, you know, how close are you? Are you close? And Chief's just not close enough as he's looking up the elevator shaft.
Right, that's right.
That's pretty much the moment where she decides, Chief's too far away, I have to do something.
Mm-hmm. And she goes in solo, which is not the best decision, but who knows, you know, what she was doing at the time. She just crashes that Pelican in, and then her death animation, her death scene, where she has those spikers sticking out of her spine.
Oh, yeah.
Just intense. Yeah.
It's pretty much, it's terrible because I hate the way Bungie used to just kill off their amazing characters way too fast.
Mm-hmm.
So Miranda was great and really shouldn't have died, I don't think.
Yeah.
And like, I think Kiki and Bonnie have both said in the past that they have a bad habit of killing off their best characters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's a total bummer that she's dead.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Bungie kind of thought this was the last game, though, like the last Master Chief game. So.
True.
In that perspective, it makes sense to kill off some of the characters.
Yeah, there's emotional weight to it, whatnot. Because I mean, Halo 2 was really her game, and she's here, but she's kind of in and out. But if you're just playing Halo 3, you may not be as invested in her as if you played, both the whole series through. But yeah, it's a bummer to see her go down here. But she did. I mean, she was trying to do the right thing. You know, she's trying to save the day. Just did not work out.
Okay, so
yeah, keep going.
Cutscene's not finished. So you step forward with the Arbiter, and the craziest thing happens. Two flood combat forms pure forms drop down, and the Grave Mind starts talking. Says, "Hold your fire, don't shoot. We will protect you and escort you to the end, so that you can stop this madness or whatever, or stop the turning." So essentially, the flood are now on your friendlies, which is crazy. Yeah. You can kill them and they don't do anything, but it's mental that that you have like a brief kind of co-op. So then you fight along this bridge with the flood fighting with you against all these brutes.
Yeah,
it's so strange. Yeah, it's cool that it happens, but it's so strange. And then obviously this is the only level where the flood are allies.
Ever. Yeah, I mean they're allies for a good reason.
Yeah, in terms of what we're trying to achieve, but obviously it's like everyone knows as soon as you undo the activation that they're going to turn on you. So I think everybody knows that. It's not like a big surprise.
Yeah, but at this moment they're both like, it makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. And you have no choice, right? You're not going to tell him no. I mean, he's probably going to send his forces up there anyway. So might as well, try to do it together. This room is so like I don't necessarily love this fight, but the fact that you are with the flood, and they're kind of on shoulder to shoulder with the flood, and they're taking over. But they can't take over the grunts, but they can take over the brutes, and I guess it's just the brutes, right? So they're taking them over, and your forces kind of amassing as you're rolling down this corridor or this bridge, I guess, that's lit by the halos. Have you guys thought about why the halos haven't been fired yet? Like, they must take a little time to wind
Well,
up.
If you remember in Halo 2, it took a good while for that halo to kind of power up and get ready to fire.
Yeah, that's true. So
I mean, power. Also, you got to think of the signal has to travel a very long way to hit all of those halos. Mm-hmm. Like, even if 7 signals are going out, they're covering light years. Like, we're outside the galaxy. Yeah. They're covering a crazy distance to get the signal for the halos to fire. Mm-hmm. Like, even if it happened in 5 minutes, that'd be phenomenal. That's a crazy amount of time for one signal to travel that far.
I probably shouldn't even bring this up, but do you guys remember how the halos were fired from the Forerunner trilogy?
Like how the firing mechanism worked?
Was it like 2 keys?
No,
like one guy had a key and then the other guy had a key? And they
no,
had to do it at the same
need to
time?
you just need the activation index.
Okay. All right. Anyway, it seemed, kind of, I'm kind of soaking this all in again, and like it is a little weird that you can activate this array by just pushing a button, but anyway.
Well, this only came to be when the the second Halo ring, Installation 05, was put on standby mode, and then the entire array was put on standby.
That's a good point.
Which then unlocks the ability to fire everything from the Ark. Because if one firing doesn't work or is put on hold, it would make sense for everyone to run to the Ark and just fire them all from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks for bringing that up. All right. Do you guys like this little section? I mean, it feels dire.
It feels wrong.
Cool. It's cool, though.
Yeah.
It is really, like, that moment is like, what? What's going on? And then it lasts 5 minutes, and then you're like, okay, we're back to normal now.
Yeah. And you have the talking about the fight specifically, you have some grunts on the end just firing fuel rod cannons at you, so you kind of have to deal with them fairly quickly, depending on what you have. I think I picked up the fuel rod cannon and started using that to my advantage and just,
I did too.
Chucked them down towards the end and hope that I hit one of those grunts. And then you reach the middle section before you kind of continue. Oh, and there is a truth hologram there. I do want to read that really quick. So he says, "How could I have known the parasite would follow? Undoubtedly, this is the heretic's doing. A final bitter curse. Clear evidence of treachery long hidden." Interesting. So on the other side... He's
basically saying that we've been with the Flood the entire time. Kind of.
He's referring to the Arbiter as the heretic.
Oh, okay.
So the Arbiter is the one that is the one being branded here, I think.
Well, there's a little of that, and then the humans maybe, but he wouldn't really know about that history, so... Interesting. All right, let's keep going here. There are jump pack brutes on the other side, so we got to deal with them. It makes things a little bit more challenging on the other end, but it's more or less the same as the front end of this mission here, or this area. So clear this out with your flood buddies, and make it all the way down to the end. There is a skull in this area.
It's
Kristen,
a really cool one.
Do you know if you have to do the skull before? So I think you have to hit the button, but when you hit the button, does it activate the cutscene right away?
I think it does. I think you do this by clearing, after the cutscene, clear out the area and then jump.
Okay. So we'll talk about that.
The order, but...
Let's talk about that afterwards then. So let's make it all the way back down, hit the button, and then we do get a little bit more of a cut. Well, there actually is quite a bit more cutscene.
It's quite a big cutscene, pretty important.
This back end of this mission is cutscene. I mean, we've talked about it before. This mission's so good because there's so much good gameplay, but then there's so much lore and so much good cutscenes that are included as well. So, all right, David, take it away.
Super major events happen in this. This whole game is leading up to this kind of moment.
Yeah, so Chief and Arbiter make it up to the top, obviously, with the help of the Flood. You see Johnson holding Miranda's body, and he's just pretty distraught. I can't remember what he says specifically, but Chief strolls up.
Stop the rings.
Yeah, Chief strolls up to the dais. Before he does anything, Truth shouts at him, says, "No, you can't stop." Arbiter puts up and grabs him. There's some excellent dialogue between these two characters here, where the Truth is shouting at him that he's unworthy. What does he say to him? I can't really remember. That you cannot stop this. I am Truth. I am the truth, and I am the voice of the Covenant. And then Arbiter says, "You must be stopped, and you must be silenced." And then the kind of Gravemind talks Truth as he's being infected and taken over. You see growth sprouting out of him like super fast. And I can't remember what the Gravemind says, but he mocks him. Essentially mocking Truth and his rhetoric and stuff like that.
He's mocking the doomed journey of the Halos and how stupid you are for believing this crap and stuff
pretty
like
much.
That.
And then Arbiter says, "No, you must be silenced," and shoves his plasma sword through him, killing Truth and casting his body aside. He does a cool kind of victory roar.
And then Master Chief just is like staring at
Master Chief is like, "In your own time there, buddy."
He does a little nod afterwards.
Yeah. He walks up and deactivates the rings. And then, as you imagine, immediately the Gravemind starts laughing and mocking them, and he turns on you.
So Chief deactivates first. So Truth sees
him deactivate. Sorry. Yeah, okay. So Truth deactivates first. And then Johnson gets into the Pelican, starts it up, and starts flying away as the Gravemind tentacles start coming up and around. And Chief jumps onto the Pelican and grabs Arbiter, and they kind of limp away, try to fly off. An iron tentacle comes up and hits the Pelican and spins it out the window. John and the Arbiter get dropped back down, and Johnson is kind of spun away and in his pelican. And then immediately John stands back up, and you get that cool iconic sequence of the Arbiter with his energy sword, John with his AR, and the two of them kind of back to back as like the flood.
We trade one villain for another.
Yes, it's a great line.
So
and then
good.
The mission kind of begins again as you continue on. You know, obviously, as you can imagine, have to fight your way back to the end of the bridge through all the flood.
Which isn't too difficult. I mean, on higher difficulties it is, but the way back isn't too bad.
Yeah. So let's just talk. I mean, the way back again. The way back's not bad. I don't know if we need to really do a walkthrough. You need a way you make.
No,
nothing really happens. Yeah. You're just running back.
But I do want to talk about the skull. So I don't know if maybe they dropped a hint somehow or something about this skull somewhere.
I don't know how I don't know how.
But I don't know how anybody would actually figure this out. But in order to get the skull to appear, the 7 rings, you need to jump through the rings in a specific order. And it probably means something, so maybe somebody, drop us a note or something like that so we can talk through the actual meaning of the order that you jump through.
Let me look at it while you talk.
Okay. But you need to go down to the end. I think the 4 is the first one. Anyway, there's a specific order where you kind of jump through these rings. They will, once you've done everything in the right order, I'm forgetting if they have a tone when you jump through them. I don't think I remember that. I just did it recently. But then they will all kind of like flicker once you do jump through them in the right order, and then you go back down towards the end where we just were with truth and all that, and then the skull will be up there right where you hit that button for the light bridge.
I've always really liked this skull. I think a lot of the skulls are just hidden in a map, but this one's really cool because you have to actually like do something. And it kind of incorporates the environment and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's definitely a pretty unique one.
Yeah.
That there's like a specific action has to take place for this skull to appear. It's not already on the map when you start the game.
Yeah. And it's a cool skull. It's called What I Would Have Been Your Daddy. Is that what it stands for?
Yeah, that one's one of the best ones.
IWHBYD, and that is for unique dialogue. What occurs more often? Is that what it was?
Yeah, you get more funny dialogue. Like, just butt in, David, when you have the thing. But I had one earlier when I was on the tank, and I ran over a spike grenade, and one of the guys on my tank was like, "Ow, that hurt! And my feelings too."
Yeah, there's a lot of good. I think there was at one point. Oh, I can't remember all the details, but the Marines just say so many good things. And if you have this on, you pretty much get all of the goodness.
And the brutes and the grunts all say stuff. It's really funny. You killed my lover. It's just really funny stuff like that.
Yeah. All right,
you got it,
do you want to cover anything?
I have the sequence, but I don't think this doesn't say anything about the significance of it.
Okay, maybe there.
What is it?
But
the sequence?
Yeah.
There's in fact it says there's 2 listed.
Huh.
So 4, 6, 5, 4, 5, 3, 4, or 5, 4, 6, 5, 4, 5, 3, 4.
You never go through 7 on this, eh?
It's true.
So you're literally only going through the Neoteric array and not the senescent. You're not using the senescent one.
Yeah, trivia on the skull. The skull was intended to be the hardest one to find. It is in fact the last one to be discovered. However, it was discovered very quickly after the game's release when hackers looked into the game's scripts.
Of course.
So that's probably how it got out.
Yeah. I bet you they were probably going to tease something. Or,
Each holographic ring sounds a different tone of the G Pythagorean mode when the player stands near it. The sequence, if one pays attention, plays the final 7 notes of the Halo theme song. There you go.
That's really fun.
Okay.
I like that.
Cool.
We got there. Nice.
Go Google /Halopedia.
All right, so we did that, and then we're fighting our way back down to the end. Oh, in my notes, I just said, what is this, Mario? We jumping through these hoops? What's going on here?
You play the Mario theme as you jump through the hoops, yeah.
Cortana does chime in here, and she says, I am a thief, but I keep what I steal. Okay,
yes.
Just a reminder that, hey, she's still around. Because that's the only Cortana moment here. I'd have to look back at my notes on the arc.
It is.
If she I forget if she showed up in the arc too. But yeah, we haven't really heard from her in a little while, but we will hear from her very soon. Yeah, then we just hop down that little hole at the very end, and then we get our final cutscene of the mission.
Oh, such a good one. It's another really good one.
What happens here?
David?
Sorry, guys. What happens here?
That was a good setup.
David, I need to know about one of my favorite cutscenes. Please.
This is one of your favorite cutscenes?
Yes, I love this one.
Why do you love it so much?
I don't know. It's like the ambiance of it and just the... It's a pretty grand cutscene. It plays the theme, and then you see, you know... We'll explain it first, and then I'll tell you why I love it.
Yeah, that piano at the very beginning is cool. Yeah, the music is very good. Continue.
You and the Arbiter are walking down the corridor, and John is he sees Cortana, he hears her, and then he kind of sees her, like, in the world walking. He's like, what the hell? He starts to follow her around the corner. When he does so, he hears... kind of hears her. Does he hear her voice? I can't remember. He hears the voice. No, he's not. Okay, he just kind of sees her. He kind of follows her around, and the Arbiter kind of follows him. He's like, what the hell? John kind of goes around the corner, and he has like in front of like a window and a console, and he pushes it. And when he does, the kind of reveal then shows that it's such an awesome window, but like it looks out over the center of what's inside
the foundry.
The foundry,
which is the center of the arc.
Which is the center of the arc, and out of the mist in this cool, amazing sequence is a new halo ring rises up. Yes. It's kind of semi-built, and you see Guilty Spark comes down behind you, and John just says, "How long have you known?" And he said, "I suspected, but now I wasn't confirmed." So if you just go back to the previous mission when when 343 was accessing the cartographer, and he kind of figured out what more or less what was it being protecting the foundry.
Yeah, he said, like, you know, why are there so many fortifications around the center of the arc?
Yeah, and it's because it's protecting the foundry, which is building a replacement of the installation that John destroyed
from Halo CE.
From Halo CE. So Guilty Spark is over the moon because now he has his Halo back.
Yeah.
So he asks John, what are you going to do? And he says, light it. And Guilty Spark is over the moon. He's so happy. He goes, okay, I'll begin the preparations immediately, and he kind of flies off towards it.
He also mentions how he needs to synchronize another key and stuff like that. He said it would take time.
Yeah. So he kind of runs off. So
funnily
Arbiter
enough,
goes,
when he's talking and flying away, like, you don't hear it, but if you have subtitles on, there's like 2 more lines of dialogue that you can see.
Oh yeah,
that you can't actually hear. It's basically saying he needs to make the key, and it might take some time, and just stuff like that. He needs to make an artificial key.
Yeah, they probably should have kept that in the actual game so people could understand then why you have to do what's next, which is John is like, okay, I'm going to go get Cortana because she has the index in the original Halo. And don't know why it would work in this one, but maybe because it's a replacement, it won't work that way. I'm not sure, whatever.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that next time.
We'll talk about that. Blah, blah, blah. That's it.
It's such a good one. It's so good. But now we have figured out what the Ark is actually for.
Yes,
that's right. One of the things.
Yeah. The Ark makes halos and then transports them to their forever home.
That's why it's so big, is because it's making these giant superstructures.
Yeah.
In the center, which makes sense.
So we finally got some information.
Yeah. I guess we can kind of talk about it now, but the Ark, we talked about its petal form. Do you think it could ever like close up?
I don't think so. It's not in any of the lore that either of the arcs, because there were 2 arcs. Yeah. Either did that. Even when the greater arc was being assaulted by the flood, they didn't. There was no like closing up of the flower or anything like that.
Okay.
If you wanted to see that, then you should play Mass Effect.
Yeah.
Oh, does that happen? I'm forgetting that.
The Citadel.
The Citadel pretty much has an array like this, and it kind of closes up when it joins with the other thingy.
Maybe that's where that
the thingy. Spoilers.
Maybe that's where that came from. Anyway. All right. Anything else before we? So we got terminals. We got some community stuff to go over. But I do like. I just wanted to comment really quickly. So I love how, to your point, how excited 343 Guilty Spark is. He's 1, excited to get his Halo back. He's 2, excited, we get to fire it.
Yeah.
And he's 3, excited because we're on the same page. Where a lot of like CE and Halo 2, like we weren't necessarily, like we were kind of on the same page or kind of trying to do the same thing, but not necessarily from time to time. But now, like, yeah, like we're all gonna do this together. And 343 is like, yes, that is the right answer, and that's what I'm gonna go do right now. He flies off, so it feels pretty cool.
Some additional trivia. This level is the last level in which you'll fight the Covenant, not including the Easter egg for the Grunt in the final level. Bungie has stated this is the longest level in the whole Halo trilogy, partially because it's the Covenant's last stand against humanity. It is the only campaign level where the players can use the AV-14 Hornet. It's the second to last level in Halo 3 to have ODST fight alongside the player. It's the only level in where friendly dropships can be destroyed. The two Separatist Phantoms that appear outside the turret tower can be destroyed. Their door-mounted plasma cannons can be blown off from the ground. So that was interesting. Like we said, it's the first and only level in which trilogy to flood our allies. And that's pretty much it. There you go. Yeah, lots of trivia. It's cool. Cool, great mission.
Yeah, fantastic mission. All right. Anything to add, Krista, before we dive into the deep lore?
Oh, God. Yeah, that's fine. We can do that. Okay.
All right.
We have quite some stuff to go through. So, of course, I can't go through everything because these are pretty crazy. But I'm just going to give you guys a kind of brief overview of kind of what's being talked about and kind of go into specifics of what's actually happening in these. We already talked about where these are, so we're going to start with Terminal 4. So the initial access of the terminal is just information on combat skins. Talks about what class you should be wearing depending on, what you're doing. The Forerunners all pretty much wore full body armor at all times. And they all had their own AI called an Ancilla, so it makes sense. 343 actually talked about your combat skin in the library where he said it's rated like an 8, but it should be like a 12. So it kind of harkens back to that. Upon the redirection and shutdown in the error message, it says, "I have found the shard that was lost. They brought it back to me. Now my reconstitution cannot be stopped." And I'm going to put a bookmark in there, and we'll talk about that when we get to the last terminal, because the last terminal kind of ties everything in together. So after you're rerouted, it's the librarian and the didact talking. The librarian is actually very distressed because the parasite is no longer feeding. It's not acting like it normally did, and it looks like it's going to redirect everything to the Ark, which is where all the Forerunners are taking their last stand. She says she's destroyed the the key ships, trying to keep the Flood from going there, at least the Flood in her vicinity. She's currently trapped on an empty world. The inhabitants are all special. She talks about how she cataloged them. She talks about one final gateway and then urges the didact to fire the array. So this is pretty much the library's last stand. She's trapped on a planet. The Flood are around her. She has nowhere to go. The didact, of course, says, "Oh, we could still win. I've got some suppression security ships that are being recalled, and we're all going to make our last stand." He does mention Medicant Bias is no longer communicating with them. And then, of course,
a quick refresher on Medicant Bias.
Yeah, sure. Medicant Bias is the Forerunner AI that was meant to kind of pick the Gravemind's mind, in a sense, and try to figure out what the cure for the Flood is. That was Medicant Bias. Also, he's like a super AI. He's the most advanced AI the Foreigners have ever created. They sent him to go find the Gravemind and either destroy him or gather information. Now he's no longer communicating. And then the didact ends with, "But now I can guess where you are," because the didact is a little love-stricken. If you're looking at this terminal on Legendary, it is another dialogue between Medicant Bias and the Gravemind, which we know Medicant Bias is kind of already, kind of seeing Gravemind's point of view. He's like, that kind of makes sense. So it's kind of just more of that. Medicant Bias says, this is the next stage of evolution. Who am I to obstruct your progress? And then, it's mostly Medicant Bias just talking about how the Forerunners are silly and stuff like that. And this one ends with, "All that I have is yours to do with as you see fit," which means the Gravemind has all the knowledge that Medicant Bias has.
Yikes.
And Medicant Bias is pretty much the Forerunners at this point. He knows everything. So that's Terminal 4. So we're going to do Terminal 5. The initial access is talking about a fallback strategy. They're talking about eliminating the biospheres of life-sustaining worlds in order to keep the flood off those worlds and from regrouping and taking the people that are on them. And then they're talking about evacuating the populations to shield worlds. And the Onyx project is directly referenced in this, which is interesting. Onyx is a very cool place. It's a Dyson sphere, which is kind of, think about being inside a ball, and like the inside of the ball is all like land, kind of like a halo. So that's what a Dyson sphere is, and it's kind of outside of reality. It's in its own kind of dimension.
And it's ginormous.
And it's huge, yeah. The size of a solar system. So
yeah.
If you want to know more about Onyx, there's a book about it. There are a couple books about it. Upon shutdown, the error message is, the daemons are not taking a kind view of your presence here. They don't want me speaking to you. The daemons are the security services that are integrated into all of the terminals and all of the systems on the Ark. So they're in charge of security, maintenance programs, and other subsystems. So they're trying to keep whatever's talking to you and rerouting you out of the system. Upon rerouted, it's a bunch of Medicant Bias's messages, like rampant messages, after he's pretty much turned on the Forerunners and attacking them. So depending on what difficulty, there's a different message on easy, normal, heroic, and legendary. So there's a couple different ones. So here are some of the highlights of Medicant Bias's ramblings. Your civilization has seen its final days. Welcome back to the Stone Age, vermin. You are deluded, but through death you can transcend ignorance. He sounds very Gravemindy at this point. So the Gravemind is pretty much talking through him. And that's all Terminal 5. So Terminal 5 is an easy one. Medicant Bias has gone cuckoo nuts crazy. And then for our final one, Terminal 6, the initial access is a research team looking into planets near the border region of the Halo's radius, just towards the end of kind of the galaxy. They're saying that there's no indigenous species, and they're sending a military exploration team. I actually read this and couldn't figure out exactly what they're referencing. So if you know, give us a shout, and we'll talk about it next episode.
Yeah.
So the shutdown on this one is a very long sequence. It's a very long sequence of shutdown, because usually it lasts maybe 2-3 seconds. This one lasts at least 10 seconds. So it's a bunch of error messages, and finally the error messages stop, and it just says, I win. So it's this entity fighting off the internal security systems in this terminal. So after that, we are rerouted to the librarian, who is talking about her work is done, everyone's archived, the portal is inactive. She comments on the beautiful planet she's going to spend the rest of her days on. And she talks about how she loves the Didact and is going to miss him and stuff like that. And this is pretty much the end, her end. And then the very last line of this is, you cannot save me. And then she stops recording because the Flood are starting to enter her comms, so she doesn't want to hear the screaming dead people, which I can relate. Yeah. Interestingly enough, so the librarian has always been very fascinated with humanity. Spoilers, kind of, she ends up on Earth. This is her on Earth. This is where she dies. So she dies right by the portal on Earth. She makes mention of a big snow-capped mountain, which actually is very relevant in the latest Halo book. So read that; it's really interesting.
Wait, is that? But don't we see that snow-capped mountain in ODST? Isn't that Kilimanjaro?
Is it Kilimanjaro? It might be.
I think because that's where the portal was, like right outside.
Yeah, it's right by there. Yeah. So it's Kilimanjaro. So the librarian pretty much dies in Kilimanjaro, and then that kind of comes into relevance with the newest Halo book, which is what? It's not Renegades, is it? Is it Renegades? Yeah, it's
Renegades.
Yeah, Renegades, yeah.
That actually is a big plot point in Renegades, so I thought it was interesting that she mentioned it. And so that is the regular one. If you're playing on Legendary, it is a very comprehensive, detailed report of offensive bias destroying Medicant Bias, Who is offensive bias,
yes.
you ask? Offensive bias was created when the Forerunners said, ah shit, we fucked up, when Medicant bias started attacking him. And they're like, well, let's make a program just as strong as Medicant bias, but its only purpose is to destroy Medicant bias.
Yeah,
so that is what... yeah, basically. So it's about offensive bias and how he ends up defeating Medicant bias by pretty much throwing his ships at Medicant. Medicant only has at this point a lot of carrier ships with no weapons, so offensive bias is methodically taking out everything.
But it's weird to think about having two AIs fight each other.
Yeah.
But they're coordinating the attacks, right? So offensive bias has all of the power of the Forerunners, versus Medicant bias has all the power of whatever the Flood's been able to attain at the point. Is that? Yeah,
it's a lot of supply ships and civilian ships, because most of the Forerunner ships are doing stuff. Mm-hmm. So this is basically Medicant bias's last stand. When Medicant bias sees that his probability of winning is literally 0, he pretty much gives up. Offensive bias, instead of destroying him, decides to fragment him and spread him around the Ark. Mm-hmm. And a couple other different places. And he pretty much ends this by saying, Medicant bias wouldn't have done the same thing for me, but this is what I'm going to do for him. I'm going to fragment him instead of destroying him. And that's where that leaves off. And so we have a lot to talk about on the very last terminal, so that one will be a nice beefy one. And very angry. I'm very angry about a couple things. So if you want to hear anger, listen to the last episode. But that is the long and the short of the terminals. They're pretty out there lore-wise. Yeah. I mean, it's you have to read a lot of books to understand what's going on here.
Yeah, very nice.
It's amazing that all this stuff was happening, and this is all pre-Greg Bear stuff, so, this is nuts. Yeah. This is nuts to actually read in that environment.
Mm-hmm. So, Greg Bear is the author of the Forerunner trilogy, and if any of this interests you, hopefully it does if you're listening to this, go read those. You're probably gonna want to read those, or at least do some Googling and kind of get some background, get some summaries, because those books will then come heavily into play for kind of Halo 4 stuff.
Yeah, also the Kilo 5 trilogy is pretty much not essential, but really helps Halo 4 as well. Halo 4 was the game where you had to read 6 books to understand it.
Yeah, well, again, you don't have to, but I feel like it makes the game way better. Yeah. It makes the game,
if you're debating, if you want to be a lore buff, if you're looking to learn more about the Halo lore, the Greg Bear novels will give you this base knowledge that is unprecedented with any other Halo book. It really gives you a really good understanding of everything in the Halo universe.
Mm-hmm. And then when you read those, then go listen to the Greg Bear interview that you guys just did on the Halo Podcast 1.
Yeah, good plug.
You're welcome. All right, we're almost done. We're getting close to the length of the last episode, so apologies, David.
Yeah, goddamn it, man, come on.
We gotta do community, and then we will get out of here. So hopefully, David, Chris has done a lot of talking. Hopefully, Facebook can give her a little bit of a break if you want to start reading out that stuff.
So Facebook, Colin Perkins on the 26th of May at 2:47 a.m. Did you like the way that Truth was killed, or would you have preferred a boss fight? ? Open bracket. Question for mission debrief -- Covenant episode close bracket. So, what we have is Ian Francis says, I'd love to see legit boss fights in Halo, but not against Prophets. The regret boss fight was bad enough. Yeah, I know what he means.
Yeah.
Josh Ringel says, boss fights would be cool, but I agree the Prophets are too weak to be bosses. I do like the Prophet birthday party skull for the regret fighting though. Yeah, it's good for that one sequence just so you can say you've done it. Luke Urel says, a boss fight normally is what I prefer. In this case, what they did I always felt was right. Prophets wouldn't be able to put up a good fight. Zero at pow, right to kiss her. And the way Arbiter swiftly struck Truth down with vengeance is still one of the best cutscenes throughout the entire franchise, in my opinion. Luke Arita says, 2 scarabs, I repeat, 2 scarabs. So much better than having to punch an old man to death.
So he's saying you got a boss fight. You got to fight 2 scarabs.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Tyler Mordecai says, the way the Prophet of Truth was killed was done perfectly. It made sense. It made sense for Taliban to kill him, since if the Truth who had stripped him of his honor branded him with the mark of shame and tried to exterminate the Sanghili. Brian Yap Segura Guerra. I would have preferred him to be killed in the Arbiter by pressing the energy sword unactivated against the Truth and then suddenly activating it. The Truth stabbed in surprise. To be honest, I just wanted someone to do that in Halo, but goddamn, my wish hasn't reached Bungie or 343i yet, because that would be a very awesome way of killing enemies, especially for assassinations with an energy sword.
But this isn't. This is Mortal Kombat. This is Halo.
Yeah, it's awesome. I know exactly what he wants. It would have been cool.
Yeah.
Lucas Fritzer, I think it would definitely be the right way to kill him. I think if you had a kill regret in Halo 2 was kind of dumb, so a cutscene was fine by me. Matthew says it was done perfectly. The crescendo, the strings, of the music was chillingly beautiful. Yes, it was. Brad Tharp says, I really like the way the cutscene plays out. I wouldn't have been opposed to shoving a few rockets up a smug face first. And lastly, James Whitmarsh, honestly, as long as the boss fight ended in this scene, it would be amazing. I think most people are on kind of the same page on Facebook, and I agree. I prefer the 2 Scarab fights and then the cool cutscene with Arbiter. I think he deserved it more than Chief did at this point.
Yeah. Very nice, Krista. Anything over on Discord?
Alright, Physical Sky 128 says, I really like the cutscene besides the cheesy Arbiter roar. How dare you? The Regret boss fight was pretty boring. Yeah, pretty much. Master G97 says he felt good about how he died because the Arbiter was supposed to kill him, and you can't really achieve that if you're not playing as the Arbiter in Halo 3 single player. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. Redacted 17 loves the "and so you must be silenced" line from when right before he died. Very good. Min says, I think it's far more fitting than a boss fight, to be honest. It fits the fact that Truth right now is arguably at his weakest, and as such barely threatens Chief and Arbiter outside of his brutes, which are taken down easily. Very good. Zach the Beast says, I like how they killed Truth. It allowed the Arbiter to develop as a character and finish his arc we started in Halo 2. Yes. And then Matt Rebanished says, killing Truth in an actual boss fight wouldn't have been the same oomph as it did in the cutscene. The only thing I really remember about the Regret fight is those damn honor guards. Yeah, and that's about it. So everybody really likes the way Truth is going to be is killed, because no one wants to punch a guy to death.
To death. Halo's not really known for its boss fights, so yeah, I mean, this would have been an opportunity, but you already got to fight 2 Scarabs, so that's your boss fight.
Yeah. Also, Truth isn't really using his throne at this point.
Yeah.
He's kind of limping around.
Yeah, good point.
You got to feel bad for the guy. He can't really do much.
Yeah, I feel bad for Truth. I feel real bad for him.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
Read the Cole Protocol and then come back.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you guys want to cover before we close it?
So much love.
Lots of goodness. David?
It's a great mission. I love it.
The cutscenes invoke so many emotions for me. It's crazy. I love it.
And the music's so good.
Yeah.
They crammed a ton into this mission, but I don't think there was a really good way to split it up into 2 missions anyway, so it made sense that it was what it was.
It feels really epic, like this big, long mission to finally end the Covenant.
Yeah. And now we're left to go deal with the Flood.
Oh, good. I'm so excited. I don't feel good, guys. I can't record for the next episode whenever we record that. I'm feeling sick up until the point where you finish recording this next episode.
I've got a bad feeling about this. Alright, that'll do it for a debriefing of the Covenant mission from Halo 3. On the next episode, we'll be covering Cortana. Send us your thoughts at podcastevolved@gmail.com or drop us a tweet at podcastevolved on Twitter. Until next time, evolved.
Evolved.